Hey, come with me. Today we're going to make some guest books. My last video I showed you how I made the canvas. Today I'll show you how I prepare a guest book. Guest signing books are used at many weddings. We kind of introduced these books many years ago. We used to order these in for my photography company, and for the last nearly 10 years we've been making these ourselves. Right, I've now cut the pages ready to stick into the guest book itself. I normally have 10 sides with images and 10 sides where guests can sign. And I explained in my last video that the paper I use is so durable that it's 280 GSM satin board paper. It can be handled really well. You can put your fingers on it. The beauty about this paper is that it doesn't leave any finger marks on it. So you can handle it how you want. You can remember, guests are going to be turning the pages in and out. Sometimes I've even witnessed kids opening and signing in certain areas. And I have certain guests will even actually sign on these areas here, and you can't stop them. So come along with me for the next stage. So as you can see, I've now cut all the pages. I've got 3 guest books to prepare this morning. So I'm just going to go in and have a look and see how, make sure I've got enough pages in there. This one's a good one as well. So when photographers can design their books in this way so that you can even sign on this side. So kind of like, you can even have collages. You can be as creative as you want. You don't have to just use 10 images. You can use 30, 40 images if you want to create as a collage. And these are all from like engagement shoots, as they call them in America, or around the other parts of the world, or even like what we call up here in the UK is pre-shoots, pre-wedding shoots. I've now gone ahead and cut all the pages, put them in order, and now I'm going to start preparing these guest books. I've got like 3 different guest books here, and started making these 10 years ago, and I wanted guest books to kind of complement the client's wedding albums. What we used to do before were offset printing books that were like, they kind of looked good, they served the purpose at the time when we were making these. But as time went on, you got to be innovating constantly. So if you're a bride and groom, you just want to enjoy sitting there going through your messages, but the book's got to be really good, and then you can actually have this and put this away for generations to come, and then opening up one day and read the messages. You always look at these books as investment into memories that years down the line, when you come to open these books again, you can read the messages from the people who you invited at your wedding. I'm now going to go ahead and now start putting these together. As mentioned, I have no issues with putting my hands on this, rubbing the paper, because I know how durable this is. And I keep going on about how durable this paper is, because purely I know people are going to comment and say, oh my God, you're touching the print, you're putting marks on it. Trust me, you're putting not a single mark on this paper because of the paper type it is. You can get machines that make these books for you and have this whole process of sticking it down. And I like making it. It's quite therapeutic. You start putting a book together, a bit of manual labor. When you make the wedding albums, it's actually a totally different process. That's actually done with a lot of delicacy. The paper is, again, the photographic paper, so the whole process is very different. But this one is done. So this is all ready to be trimmed. So the best pens to use are Sharpies. Just get some really decent Sharpies on these, and that way your messages are a lot clear. I wouldn't use any biros at all on these. Guest books also serve as a really good way of brand awareness. And if you're a photographer, you want to showcase your photos to the guests a little bit more and get your name out a little bit more out there, then yeah, I'll definitely be doing guest books. A guest book along with a canvas or a print or something. Back in the days, if there's only very few photographers in the market now will remember this, is that within the Asian wedding industry, weddings used to be very traditional. I would say 23 years ago or 24 years ago, because we adapted this change in changing how Asian weddings were done for us. I came straight out of uni and I I kind of like just got into it by accident whilst my sisters were getting married, and I was shooting film at the time, and it was really boring, working with some of the photographers and the way the weddings were shot. So I kind of then stopped for about a year and attended this event where the photographers at the time, and I remember one of them called Dennis Orchard, who had said, well, why don't you meet up with your bride and grooms before the wedding, like a few weeks or a month before, and take photos of them, and that will break the ice. And I remember the first shoot that I did was at by Tower Bridge, by what used to be where the road that leads towards the Design Museum. And that was one of the best experiences, because when it came to shooting the wedding, it was such an icebreaker, because we were really able to capture some beautiful natural photography back then. That was the fun part about it. And thereon, we went on to do more and more, where we started creating some small branding things like the thank you cards and all sorts. And now people go all over the world to do these pre-wedding shoots. So it's now taken to another level. But back in the day, it was just such a fun thing. To be honest, the whole idea of a pre-wedding shoot was purely break the ice with the photographer and the bride and groom. That was the purpose. And because when it comes down to the wedding day, you know that everything is going to be great because you broke the ice with them. You can pick out any out of the ordinary habits that the bride and grooms have in front of a camera, because if you just turn up on the wedding day and start photographing them, and if you've not met them before, can become so challenging, purely because you're now trying to ask them not to do something that they are doing on the wedding day, which makes it even worse. So we've picked out fake smiles, blinkers, this kind of things we picked up from pre-wedding shoots. So now when I look at these, I become very critical or critique some of these images, and always look and say, oh, this could be taken in this way, that could be taken that way. But listen, my next step on this is I'm now going to go ahead and trim these pages. Right, the books have now been settled for, I'd say, more than an hour, and I'm going to now go ahead and trim the access pages on this. And what you'll see is that white there, that's the access. And I'm going to now go ahead and trim. The key for me on this is that having a nice sharp blade. That's what's really important. And I know some people will say, well, there's loads of ways to do it. This is how I do it, and this is how I prefer doing it, because it's a process that works really, really well for me. It's about having a steady hand and just taking your time and doing this. As you see, I'm now going to just, the blade's got to be sharp. I'll now go ahead and just trim this. Been working with scalpels since I was about 16 years old. I worked with them for many years, so I know how to handle these and how to use this. You'll be surprised at how many people who will come here and do some, students, interns, or people who work here will say, well, show me how you cut. And a lot of them will not know how to cut the blade, hold the blade. And if they're trimming, they're like literally holding the blade like this. It's got to be really natural. You just become one with the blade. I made it look really easy, but trust me, it's all in the hand. Have patience, and now you can see it's all trimmed, nice and beautiful. I'll now go ahead and do the rest of the 3 albums. Cut, it's all done. And this here now is all done. You see it there. The book is all done, ready. Just going to have it cleaned up with a brush. I like to just go through the book once I've done it, just make sure everything looks great on it. There's nothing that's, just not looking right. I know I've cut it, but normally if somebody else here cuts it, I'll just go through the book, have a look at it, and make sure nothing is out of the ordinary. Are we going to have to redo the book? If once the page is stuck, it's stuck. Seriously, you can't You can't stop faffing about with this. So if you're gonna do it properly from the beginning. So here you go, this one is done. And that's exactly how I prepare these guest books. Make sure if you like the video, comment on it. You have any questions on this, you have any feedback you wanna give, you should just give it to me. Make sure you like, share the videos, subscribe to the channel. And if you have any questions on these guest books or other types of fine art printing that we do, definitely just put it in the comments and we'll reply back to you.